Now, following advice from my students, I've decided to give up teaching. What I've decided to do is think what's my hobby and make my hobby into a new business. I've decided to become an entrepreneur. And my hobby is books. I love books. I read books. I've been reading books all my life and I've always got a book on the go. But I'm a bit short of money. I haven't got as much money as I need in order to set up my new business. So I'm going to go to see the dragons on Dragon's Den. But I want to make sure when I get there, they're more likely to lend me the money than if I just turn up unprepared. So I've looked through loads of textbooks and decided what's the best thing that I could do before I went into the dragons. And I've decided I'm going to calculate my break-even point. The break-even point, as you know, is the point where you stop making a loss and you start to make a profit. So it's the point where profit is 0 and loss is 0. Okay? So let me show you how I'm going to calculate that. Right, this is how I'm going to calculate my break-even output. The formula that you need to remember for your exam is fixed costs divided by contribution. Contribution is selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. So let's make sure we're clear what these terms mean. Fixed costs are the costs you have to pay and they do not change every time one more unit is made or sold. That's going to be things like rent, that's going to be things like advertising costs, it's going to be things like managers' salaries. Okay? So for example, if I have a building and the rent is £1,000 a week and I don't do any work, I still have to pay £1,000 a week. If I'm really busy, I still only pay £1,000 a week. Variable costs are the costs that do change every time one more unit is made or sold. For example, raw materials, for example, commission, for example, packaging. So every time we make one more football or whatever it is we might be making, we have to buy more raw materials. Okay, so let's calculate the break-even for my bookshop to take to the dragons. The break-even output, well, I've done some research and I've predicted, because remember it's only a forecast, that my fixed costs are £5,000. Okay? On average, I sell my books for £20 each, and on average, each of my books cost me £10 to buy. Okay? So my break-even is going to be 5,000 divided by the contribution, which is 20 minus 10, which will be 5,000 divided by 10. So I now know I need to sell 500 books in order to break even. Now I've predicted from my market research I'm going to sell 1,000 books. So I'm going to sell a lot more than my break even, which means I'll be in profit. The dragons are going to love this idea. Okay, so we've seen how to calculate the break even point. So I'm trying to now decide, I'm trying to really think, is it worth my while? So what's the good thing about it? Well, it was easy to do, wasn't it? It only took me a few seconds once I'd got my facts and figures to be able to calculate my break even point. So I've got something good to take into the dragons. It's also good because I can play around with it. What happens if I put £1 on my selling price? What happens if I get a discount on my books? So I can recalculate the break-even point quite easily. Also, it's really good for showing people that you are likely to do well or not. Okay, so I've done some market research, and my market research shows I'm going to sell 1,000 books, and my break-even point is 500. So I'm 500 above my break-even point. My margin of safety is 500. So the dragons are bound to lend me the money. Then I've been looking, what's the downsides? Well, the problem is with break-even, it assumes that everything I buy, I also sell. It assumes that every book, as soon as I get it, I sell it. Well, that's not true. You can see behind me here, I've got thousands of books. And at the end of the day, every day, I'll still have thousands of books. Also, it assumes that every book I have will sell for the same price. It assumes that every book I have I buy for the same price. Well, that's not true. I've got books that I'll sell for £2. I've got books that I'll sell for £100. So break-even sort of falls down a little bit then. Finally, it's a prediction, it's a forecast. It's predicting what might happen in the future. Okay? The thing is with break-even, things change. My supplier might put their prices up, my rent might go up. Okay? So the problem with break-even is it's never 100% accurate. Overall, though, I've decided I'm going to use the average and I'm going to go into the dragons and I'm going to use break-even because I think it's better than not doing it.